Hello everybody, I'm Rob Hatch and welcome to the Gruppetto. Now, there must have been some mistakes somewhere by somebody at Eurosport. As well as having my voice all over the coverage, they've decided to send the camera out as well. Before they realise that mistake, I thought we'd better get on with it anyway. So, we're here, we're ready for episode 1. We've invited you to Spain. We're going to take you on a few travels with us, meet our experts as well. Today, we'll be looking back at the first few races that we've seen on Eurosport this season, as well as catching up with a few members who are usually found in the breakaway. Here on the Gruppetto, we'll bring you all the best of the racing we have on Eurosport. So without further ado, there's been plenty so far this season, hasn't there? Let's rewind to opening weekend and begin with Omloop het Nieuwsblad. There were two huge stories, one for a serial winner, the other a rare moment of success. There aren't many races that Marianne Vos, modern cycling's GOAT, hasn't won, and certainly not many she hasn't ridden. But a first appearance at the Flemish Opener saw Dutch success, with the Visma bike star breaking the SD Works dominance. Lotte Kopecky made a move on the Berendries, but it was nothing more than an early selection. Longo Borghini tried her luck, then on the Muur it would be Kopecky again, with the same story on the Bosberg. 4 would come to the line, ending with a sprint for Vos and a new race on her palmarès. For the record, that is now 249 professional road victories for the Dutch star. Another milestone is just one win away. Visma bike dominated the men's race, forcing an early split and then accelerating away to another, which was started by Lidl-Trek's Tom Skuijns. Matteo Jorgensen looked to have taken his chance on the way to Giro, but he was brought back on the final climb of the day. Niels Pollitt then attacked, but he was marked by Jan Tratnik, the Slovenian rider eternally appreciated but rarely rewarded. This would be the day where it all fell into place. A first ever cobbled classic win for Jan Tratnik, a day after his 34th birthday. The day was made even better by teammate Wout van Aert winning the sprint for third. Van Aert and Tratnik would then head to altitude, and there would be no repeat of the Visma bike dominance at Strade Bianche. The headline there came in capital letters, and via the return to racing of a certain Tadej Pogačar. Remember him? UAE Emirates taking one of the wins that will go down in history. The damage was done just as the TV camera started rolling. 81 kilometres to go. Yes, 81 kilometres to go when the attack was launched. Almost unthinkable, with the rider in question not impossible. Nobody behind could react, and a modern classic was won by the young master of modern cycling. Yet again, there was a strong performance from Latvian Tom Skuijns. He was second, and the impressive young Belgian Maxime van Gils was third. Earlier in the day in Siena, Lotte Kopecky again did the business. Her teammate Bredevold, the European champion, crashed as the race entered its brand new finishing loop and the business end. Lizzie Deignan and Amanda Spratt were looking strong for Lidl-Trek. They also had Shirin van Anrooy as an option, with Italian champion Elisa Longo Borghini also in the mix. Strength in numbers has always been, well, the strength for SD Works Pro Time, and again it will prove to be the case. Demi Vollering attacking and the world champion following, before hitting the small group with a move over the top with 10 kilometres to go. Longo Borghini was with her until the final climb, but Kopecky rode away on Via Santa Caterina, and at the finish, unlike the year before, this time there was no doubt. This time, SD Works were all smiles. After Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico had been won by Matteo Jorgensen and Jonas Vingegaard respectively, of course he was winning everything early season, the first monument of the season was upon us. And the longest race of the year, it was to become the fastest ever edition. Despite the nigh on 300 kilometre distance, the bunch reached Sanremo after leaving Milan, well, near enough Milan, it was Pavia in the end, in over 46 kilometres per hour. Yep, I'm reading here because 46 kilometres per hour, a crazy speed to break a record that had stood since 1990. As usual, the action took place in the final half hour or so, and as always, that period was one of the most pulsating of the entire cycling season. All the talk beforehand had been of a lightning ascent of the Cipressa by UAE Emirates, that to aid and assist their leader Tadej Pogačar in his quest to win the Classicissima. But the Emirati squad were missing in action at the bottom of the hill, budged out of position, and despite then taking control, well, they couldn't make it hard enough for their leader. They'd try again on the Poggio, but not really becoming the Poggio this year. Sorry. He attacked twice and almost got a gap the final time, just a few hundred metres over the top. Everyone was on the limit then, and it took an amazing acceleration by the world champion Mathieu van der Poel to close the gap and put out the fire. Once at the bottom, both Sobrero and Pidcock would try their luck. That was before MVDP became MVP of this particular race. He pulled them back to set up Jasper Philipsen, his teammate, to sprint home from a small group that included Pedersen, Bettiol and former winner Mohoric. Michael Matthews of Jayco Alula and of course Tadej Pogačar completed the podium. Alpecin de Koenig taking the win for the second year running. One of the features of any gruppetto is of course conversation, although if you're trying to make the time cut, things can of course get a little heated. On that front, I'm going to need a little bit of assistance every week to make that time cut, and luckily here at Eurosport we have an embarrassment of riches, don't we? All of our experts will be joining me at some point, and we'll get some special guests along as well. First up, helping me make the end of this week's race, our breakaway star presenter Orla Chennaoui, and of course her sidekick Adam Blythe. And you Daniel Lloyd fans, don't worry, he'll be along at some point soon. What is there left to say about Vos that hasn't been said already? Because she's still right up there at the top, despite the Kopecky and people like that dominating things elsewhere.
That's the thing about her actually that I love, and we've talked about this on air a lot. Her love for winning, her appetite for winning, the celebration that she gives as she crosses the line is magnificent. But she won in an era, okay, the predecessor to SD Works also, I mean, they've been the dominant team in women's racing since forever. But the way they are winning right now often makes them appear unbeatable, and sometimes they are, frankly, unbeatable. So what Mariana does is even more impressive, because we talk about the psychology of winning and the psychology of racing. To be able to believe that you can still, not single-handedly, she now has an incredibly strong team around her, but nonetheless, to be able to take a race like that into your own hands, to take SD Works on her terms is what makes her so impressive, because SD Works already going into opening weekend had dominated the UAE Women's Tour, and we were already sort of scratching our heads and thinking, how do we make this really interesting? I mean, it's no disrespect to SD Works, it's full respect to them, but it doesn't become the most dynamic storyline if they continue to win. And then, just when we needed it, opening weekend, Omlovet Newsblad, in she comes, takes the win, absolutely storming stuff. And we've written her off before. We've said before, that's it, she's had her time. And even then we were saying GOAT. And that's, wonderful. And now's her time maybe that it's caught up with her. And she comes back. And now she's winning again and again. And, after as well, taking wins at a win at the first ever Tour de France Femmes, she's ticking off the things that a great should be ticking off.
I just think with her, she started back in the era like when Nicole Cook was around. That is like Beijing Olympics 2008. She did the road race. I think she was second there. And I think if you go back all the way there, successful then and still successful now with a lot of that, with a lot of ups and downs. And that's, for me, it's not the race wins that makes her the GOAT. It's the way that she can still perform at the way she does. Yes, okay, if you look at it, greatest of all time. On paper, yeah, men's and women's, like flat out the greatest of all time by a long margin. But it's the way she's able to race when she first started, win bike races, win for 5 or 6 years consistently, then start to really struggle with other riders coming through, being challenged a lot more. So it wasn't that she stopped winning, but winning became a lot harder for her. And I think as the years have gone by, it's increasingly got harder and harder and harder and harder. And then if you look at now, before Omloop, we were just SD Works, SD Works, SD Works, SD Works. We were getting bored of it almost, because it was just like, we're going to expect them to be racing each other. She comes along, Vos, and it's not, if you get Vos in the condition she's in, it's not just Vos is there because she knows what she's doing. It is that, but she's got the legs to do it. And if you put them two together, it's done. It's done. There's no matter how good Kopecky was that day, if she was 15, 20% better than Vos and she could not drop her, she's still not going to beat her.
I think we're not far off being able to break SD Works' dominance, but we're not anywhere near there at the same time. However, if we get the rumours materialising and Demi Vollering maybe skipping camp to UAE Team Emirates, to UAE ADQ, then that would change the dynamics an awful lot, I think, I hope. That would be a lot of fun.
I think it'll be a lot of fun, but I think she'd struggle massively. I really do think she'd struggle to win as many bike races as she does, just because of the whole team setup, the riders around her, everything with it. It's like if like Chris Froome or whoever it was, moved teams. They've won the Tour de France, won something like that. They moved teams.
Froome's a different case, though, isn't it, because of the crash?
Yeah. But just for
Roglic, or even Phillips
we'll
today.
Yeah.
You know, all the talk last week about maybe, he's putting himself up for sale. He's got Alex Carrera to sort of negotiate his next deal. And he's saying, my future might lie away. If he looks at today and see what Van der Poel did for him and racing in that team, it's the same thing. It's strength in numbers, certainly in the classics.
Well, here's the thing. SD Works don't seem to be trying to keep Damie, do they? You know, they've already announced that Lotte is staying until 2028. If they wanted to keep Damie, they would maybe be throwing a lot of eggs in her basket right now. So maybe they're happy enough for her to go.
Yeah, I've not heard this rumour mill about Phillips. And where was he rumoured to go? I'm going to
anywhere.
guess.
Basically, he was putting himself up for sale and saying, I quite like where I am. I'm doing rather well. But let's put the price up a bit.
Do you know he'd fit quite well into UAE, wouldn't he?
Do you reckon?
Well, he was there already as well.
Well, I think he'd fit quite well in there. You think him and Pogacar are obviously very good friends.
Yeah.
And I think they've not got that sprinter yet. Pogacar, yes, he can win the Tour, he can win these races, but Philipsen would run a very different programme until it got to the Tour.
I think it would be a huge mistake.
Would they like a sprinter?
For Philipsen?
Yeah.
Look at how much he has benefited from having Mathieu doing his lead out.
I think a lot of riders, if they're built, say if, I don't know, Philipsen was on, let's say 500 grand a year, and then UAE offered him 600 grand a year, I'm sure he'd go, I'll probably stay. But if he's on, let's say he's on, 1.5 million now, and then UAE say, we'll give you 2.5 million, it's a lot of thinking to do. You really have to decide how much you love the sport. And this goes back to all bike riders, right? When they go, I just love it. Do it for free. Come on, do it for free. You don't love it that much. Everyone loves riding a bike, but everyone grew up riding, loving it, winning. Take the money away and see how much everyone loves it.
Hi, Rob. I'm here in Milan-San Remo. We're on site with the guys, and we've been talking about some issues in cycling. And I think, for the fair play, it's not always eager about the number of stickers and the vehicles the teams have. So I have a personal experience in 21 in the Tour. It was a heat protocol on, and the organizers decided to give more stickers to the teams. And we received also stickers, but we didn't have personnel and cars able to drive to the Tour. So we were with the same amount of cars and help. And some other teams got up to 16 cars. And they plan to have every 20 minutes service on every climb. So got every 20 minutes ice, water, drinks, service, everything. So it makes a huge difference.
Obviously talking about certain teams, the teams that have dominated so far this year in men's cycling, Visma, Lisa Bike and UAE Emirates, having that little bit of extra budget to have extra people to fuel on the course. And we all know how important fueling is.
Can I jump on my soapbox here?
Please
because
do.
At full respect, might get dusty. Full respect to Philippe, everything he knows about this sport. I cannot claim to have a fraction of his knowledge or his experience, obviously. However,
There we go.
however, I'm just not on board with talking about salary caps, capping the sport. We need to talk about investment, about growing the sport, about making it bigger. Yes, maybe sharing the money around, but not by teams who enjoy a larger budget, sharing it out, finding different ways for the smaller teams to come through and get more investment. And that's all about race structure, team structure, in the finance structure. But if we're talking about capping anything, I feel like we're so navel gazing sometimes in this sport, whereby we see our pie and we see the slice of the pie. And I remember chairing this debate once at the UCI, which was like an open floor debate with all the main race organisers and all the main team bosses and sports directors. And essentially, this discussion was supposed to be about how we grow the sport and whether there's a streamlining of the calendar and making it more Gen X friendly, whatever. And I was stunned by the reaction from almost everybody in that room who was more concerned about keeping their slice of the pie rather than making the pie bigger.
I was wondering that was coming in.
But it absolutely drives me insane. We need to step outside of this sport. We need to see it in a global sporting context, in a global business context, and realise there is so much more that we need to be doing to grow it, not to contain it. When people started talking about the rumour about Demi Vollering being offered €1 million to go to UAE, and all of a sudden straight away it's, yeah, but is that good for women's cycling? Does that trickle down to the grassroots? Come on. If we've got one of the best riders in the world getting a blinking good salary for her career. Then we get proper talent coming through and seeing this as a viable alternative to football or American football, whatever it might be, and actually investing and growing in this sport. If we're talking about salary caps in a sport that struggles for finance or budget caps, and just one last thing, sorry, but the third team that we didn't mention in the big budget teams is Ineos Grenadiers. Money is not a guarantee of doing well. So what are we going to say? Your budget is capped if you're successful. We'll let you keep the budget because you're not winning quite so much. It doesn't make sense to me.
Is there any sympathy there as an ex-rider, a position we've not been in, for Phil?
There is. It's not just for Phil, it's for the riders that are doing the job. So what Phil's there complaining about is ultimately the UCI, ASO, whatever race it was, are giving out car stickers. So you've got the car stickers for in each race, and you get a number of stickers. So in each, I don't know how many teams.
So they're accredited vehicles belonging to your team.
Accredited vehicles, that means you're allowed to drive on the course, you're allowed to stop at certain points with a sticker on your car. In extreme weather heat protocol, you get to the point where you need more fluid on board, you need more drinks. Everyone can provide more drinks and more fluid. What Phil was saying is they give out so many stickers to all the team, let's say 10 each, 6 each, that not each team has got that amount of cars. That is, it helps them perform. But if in that race situation, I think for the UCI ASO, they need to say, right, how many cars has everyone got? Just go and ask the general manager, whoever it is, quick email around the teams, let us know if you want to give out stickers, but we don't want to give teams an extra advantage. If you're looking on the day, an advantage of being cool, keeping the riders, keeping them fresh for more safety than anything for heat protocol, I think that should be fair enough across all boards, but it comes into them performance. But Phil's not complaining about salary cap, and he's not complaining about how much budget the teams have all got, because ultimately the budget's going to training camps, they're going to extra equipment, this, that and the other. Yes, it makes a difference, but the biggest difference in cycling, as it's always been, is riding your bike, training as hard as you can be. You might not have this heat protocol stuff, but if you ride your bike enough and train harder than anyone else, you're going to be a lot better.
All this year there's been the talk of the big four going to the Tour de France. How are they getting on? We've had Remco Evenepoel starting like a house on fire, winning in Figueira da Foz. He then won in the Algarve. He was pretty good in Paris-Nice, you'd have to say. Maybe the team could have been a little better. And there's also the team time trial with the weather-affected stuff that affected the race as well. Primož Roglič didn't ride until Paris-Nice. Top 10, but no better than that, which is a strange result for Primož Roglič.
Worst he's had in years.
In a 1 week straight stage race, Jonas Vingegaard went to Gran Camino and, he walked the entire Camino himself, I think, didn't he? He won all 3 main stages, apart from the neutralised prologue, which didn't really count. Don't say that to the winner, of course. It didn't count for the general classification. And who else we've got? Tadej Pogačar, who has raced twice, won once, and ended up on the podium once as well. How are they all getting on?
I'm not getting overly excited about Tadej going for the overall. I think he'll go for it, but I think Tadej will go in just to win. The way that he's been the last couple of years, that step to Jonas is still quite a big step. And it's not a big step which is unachievable, but it's a step back where he has to take his foot off the gas a lot in terms of the way that he rides, the way that he adjusts himself to the bike. So I think Giro, full gas, try and win it. You've got 2 out of the 3 Grand Tours there. And I think when he goes to the Tour, he'll put himself in a position to go for the overall victory. But I just think if he loses a bit of time, he's not going to be upset about it, because he'll just go every mountain stage, every chance he get, win. But also with that, for me, that brings in, is he going for the overall? Is he not going for the overall? Because you can't let him out your sights, and that draws Remco out, that draws Primus out,
which
that
makes
draws
it really hard
Jonas
for him
out.
to lose time as well.
Exactly. Unless he
drops completely away. And I do wonder about the pressure that will come from the sponsors, because it's all very well to win Strade Bianche with an 80-kilometre solo. Nothing compares to winning the Tour de France. And I think really, in terms of bang for buck, you want your lad winning the Tour de France for the 3rd time and finally bettering Jonas Vingegaard and getting the better of Visma Lease back again. I just think no matter what else happens, for them, that has got to be the most important objective of the year.
I'd say yes, but at the same time, if Tadej wins the Giro, massive tick, and a tick for the sponsors. If he comes to the Tour de France and just says, look, I'm going to see how it goes, I want to be up there, but I'm going to try and win as many stages as I can. Let's say that guy could get 5 stages, 6 stages maybe.
Don't you think that would have to be his objective from the beginning?
No, he can't win the Tour that way because that's what he's.
No, to go for stages and give up the GC right from the very, very beginning and say, actually, this is going to be my strategy. Because the problem is, if he goes for the GC from the start, you've already run out of half of the Tour de France's options of winning a stage, for example. If you look at last year, and he was well beaten in the end, but we're looking at well into week 2. I mean, when did he drop out of contention? In the third week?
Third week, yeah.
And so by then, you've got to race that far to know whether or not you're going to win the Tour de France. When you know you're not going to, and by some margin, you don't have very many chances left to win a stage.
What I heard it from last week. Oh, I know I heard it from, but I'm not a name checker because I don't know if they want me to say that or not. But he was saying in the Tour a couple of years last year, there was a lot of arguing. And you could hear it verbally between Tadej, Rafa Majka in the team about what they should do. Should they go on the attack?
On
should
the
they
road,
not go on the track? On the road. And other teams could hear it. And if you hear that, you're like, they are not settled whatsoever. So I think Tadej, by the sounds of it, he wants to race like a loony. He wants to race like we see Tadej now, just going for it all the time. And that's what I'm excited about, him going to the Tour de France.
Evenepoel, Roglic, Vingegaard, very quick from you, Orla.
Vingegaard for the win. For the Tour. Yeah, Vingegaard for the win. I think Roglic for second. Partly because of what we're saying. And the Giro is going to be won, if all things being equal, I think Tadej will win the Giro. And that will take so much out of him. I think it would be abnormal to be able to be in contention for the Tour de France. So I think Jonas, Primoz, and I don't know if Remco will finish.
I think Jonas Remco, Primoz DNF.
Really?
Go to the Vuelta again. And Tadej maybe third, someone else. I'm not too sure.
You can see that chat in full on Eurosport.com and the Eurosport Cycling YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram as well, at Eurosport Cycling. We, of course, got into all sorts, including previewing the upcoming Cobbled Classics. E3 Saxo Classic is the first of those. The mini Tour of Flanders starts and finishes in the town of Harelbeke. That's live on Eurosport and Discovery Plus from 1 p.m. GMT on Friday the 22nd of March. Gint-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields takes place on Sunday the 24th with both the men's and women's races live. Check your regional schedules and the territory restrictions for where and when you can watch that race. Well, the finish line arch is just up the road, the time's ticking down, and I think we're just going to about make it for this first episode of the Gruppetto. Next week, I don't think we'll have any problem making the time limit because it's the world champion, yes, Mathieu van der Poel, who will be joining us on episode 2 of the Gruppetto. If you like what you saw, feel free to share, and we'd appreciate it too if you follow us on @Eurosport Cycling on our YouTube and Instagram channels. The live racing is on. We hope you enjoy that. So until next week, goodbye.